This is a story about the Prince of the Rus. It's known as Ivan the Elder. No, sorry, Ivan the Young. Ivan the Elder is a different story, which leads into this one, but we won't do that one. And like most of the princes of the Rus, he was a horseman and a warrior. And when he wasn't out fighting someone, he was out drilling his troops so that they would be ready for the next war. One day he comes back to his castle keep, and there at the front gate are his two guardsmen, and they're talking to an old man with long white hair and a long beard. And so Ivan rides up and says, what is this about? And the old man turns to him and says, Your Majesty, I am but a traveler, but I have been gifted with the gift of prophecy. If you will give me something to eat and a bed for the night, you may ask me any one question about your future, and I will give you a true answer. And, well, Ivan has heard about this sort of thing, so he bade his guards give this man a comfortable bed for the night to see he is fed, and then bring him into my study. And so while he was waiting, Ivan sat in the study and he thought about it. If I'm going to ask one question about my future, what would it be? Now, something for all of you to consider. If you had one question, what would you ask? Well, by the time the old man was escorted into the study, Ivan had formulated his question. And he said, Tell me, how will I die? And the old man closed his eyes for a long moment, and when he opened it, it said, My lord, you will not die in battle, nor will it be of disease, nor will it be of old age. In fact, it is a horse which shall cause your death. That very animal on which I saw you riding today, that is how you will die. And Ivan nodded and dismissed the old man. And he thought about this, and his first instinct was to order that horse killed at once. But then it occurred to him that horses amongst the people of the Rus have great value. And to have such a animal in good health slaughtered for apparently no good reason would diminish him in the eyes of his men and perhaps even cause them to doubt his sanity. So he called to him his master of horse and said to him, That animal on which I was riding today has served me well over the past year or so. However, it has become obstreperous. It is not as obedient to my commands as it used to be. I believe it is time it be retired. Take him out to one of our pastures out to the far north. Put him out to spend his last days grazing in peace. And he thought no more of it, because at that time, within a few days, he was gathering together his troops to head south to make war upon the Greeks. For 2 years, he was gone off to war. And during those 2 years, he acquired a considerable reputation amongst his troops, because knowing he would not die in battle, he was brave to the point of recklessness, and acquired a great respect among his troops and a fearful reputation amongst his enemies. When he returned at last victorious, of course, having been gone for 2 years, there was much that needed to be tended to. And when finally he sat down with his master horse to see how many had died and how many had been born and what the condition of his stables were, it occurred to inquire, whatever happened to that horse that I asked you to take out to our northern pastures? And his master said, Well, sire, I am not certain. The last 2 winters have been very hard. My guess is that it is probably dead by now. And Ivan said, very well, we need not discuss the matter any further. But that night he lay in bed, and the more he thought about it, the more curious he got. And over the next day or two, it just continually bothered him. And finally he decided, I must know for sure. So he boarded another horse, and he rode it out far to the north, where he knew that the pens were that the retired horses were kept in. And as he rode along, he did not see anything at first. But at last, looking out in the tall grass, there he saw the skeleton of a horse, with the grass starting to grow up through it. And he stepped down and over the rails, and he walked up, and he looked down at the skeleton of this horse. And after a long moment, he raised his face skyward and said, "O ye fates, you see, the creature you have deigned to be my death is dead at my feet, and I am still alive. You see, I have fooled you." And to emphasize his point, he kicked the skull of the horse. Then from beneath the skull rose up a serpent, which in its anger bit him just above the knee. Now Ivan drew out his sword and cut the serpent in twain at once, but it was too late. And as he staggered backwards, he could feel the poison spreading up through his leg and through his groin and upward reaching for his heart. And he had taken no more than a few steps back before the sword fell from his hand, and very quickly he fell dead by its side. And from this, we learn two important lessons. The first is, the fates may be predicted, they may be temporarily avoided, but they cannot be avoided entirely, and certainly they will not be mocked. And the second thing we learn from this tale is, no good thing shall ever come from beating a dead horse.